Welcome to the Legacy Crusaders YouTube channel. This is Benji, and we're doing another episode of Ask Judgeman. Today we're answering a question from the comments from the previous video from a Richie Antoine. He wrote it in a pretty long form way. I'll leave it up here if you want to read the question, but I'm going to summarize. Richie has a Performapal Skullcrabat Joker, along with a Black Fang Magician and a Purple Poison Magician in his scale. And his opponent has a Bugente Turtle, who was already targeted by the effect of Black Fang of Magician to decrease its attack to half. So its attack is currently 850. So he declares an attack with his Performapal Skullcrabat Joker to attack and destroy Bugente Turtle. Now, what his opponent does is he activates Honest in the damage step. Richie says he would like to let that effect resolve, and then he'd like to activate his own effect of Purple Poison Magician in the damage step to increase the attack by 1200 afterwards and win the battle. But his opponent states he has to chain the effect of Purple Poison Magician to Honest, which would then result in a better outcome for him. Who's right, who's wrong? Can you activate multiple chains in the damage step? Let's take a look at this. So we're going to be looking at the Fast Effects timing chart, which is under the Advanced Rules section on the Konami website, and I'm going to post that up on the screen now. And this has a big deal to do with what is known as priority in Yu-Gi-Oh!, or at least what priority is known as now. Priority in the past used to be that the turn player had the priority to activate a card effect before their opponent could respond, but that was a misuse of priority at the time. What it really means is that when quick effect opportunities come up, the turn player gets to go first. So let's take a look at the top of the Fast Effects timing chart, starting with Part A, which talks about the open game state, which occurs at the beginning of every phase or step, including the damage step, which is why this is relevant to the question that we're going to be discussing. So if we look at the top, it says Part A, the game state is open. The turn player may perform any appropriate action for every phase and step that begins here. Alright, so it starts at this part of the chart, depending on what the turn player wants to do. So the turn player has 3 possible actions at the start of every phase. So in box 1 over here, the turn player can take an action that does not start a chain, whether it be normal summon or set a monster, set a spell or trap card, special summon a card that does not start a chain, declare an attack, change battle position. That also includes activating a spell or a trap. And those are all things that occur at the very beginning of any phase. For the sake of following this question, we're going to assume that we've entered the damage step and it is the turn player's priority to activate a quick effect at that time, assuming that a card was not triggered by proceeding to the damage step. So since nothing was triggered in this scenario, Richie would have a priority to activate the effect of Purple Poison Magician before his opponent can activate Honest. But in this case, he claims to have not done that, although he could have if he wanted to inflict more damage, but he did not. Now priority passes to his opponent, who has the opportunity to activate their own quick effect. In this case, the effect was Honest. Now in most scenarios, most players do not give the turn player the opportunity to activate their quick effect after the resolution of a non-effect activating action. But so most people tend to respond, which is usually to your benefit anyway because of how card effects resolve in reverse order, so you want your cards to activate later. So a turn player tends to not activate a card unless they really have to first. So he's going to activate Honest, and then it will become the turn player's priority to respond. So in this scenario, he chooses not to respond to Honest, so we are going to resolve the chain and return to this point in the Fast Effects timings chart. And the important point to notice is that we actually did not end phase, which only occurs when both players pass on priority. If they do not, we return to this point and we were re-given the opportunity to start a chain and determine who's starting the chain and build the chain, and over again until both players pass on priority. So after Honest resolves, we go through this process again. So in this case, Richie will activate the effect of Purple Poison Magician, and there will be no response from the Bujin player. So that will resolve, and then they will have the opportunity once again to start a chain, and both players with no effects left to activate will allow the chain to resolve, progressing the game to the next phase, where damage is calculated, and in this case the Bugente Turtle will be destroyed by battle with the Performapal Skullcrabat Joker. So in short, at the resolution of one chain, you can start another chain before moving on to the next phase of the game, and you can continue to do that until both players decide they would like to not activate card effects. In the case of the main phase, that would then bring it back to the turn player to either normal summon or set a monster, or activate a spell or trap card, perform an inherent summon, or just choose to move to the next phase, all of which would bring you back to that same position in the fast effects timing chart in order for you to see if your opponent has a response. Similarly, in the battle phase, after the game states become open, you'll have the opportunity to declare an attack with another monster, so on and so forth, with going through the fast effects timing chart to see if anyone would like to activate responses and things of that nature. In the other phases, the standby, draw, and end phase, if both players choose to do nothing, instead of proceeding to an open game state, because the entire phase is played with essentially a quick effects only position, you would just move on to the next phase. If both players say, would you like to activate an effect, and would you, and then both say no, you move on. You don't have the option to go back now that both players have said no, so that's another thing you might want to be concerned with. Next time, I wanted to talk about activation windows, specifically the activation window that occurs when a monster declares an attack or when a monster is summoned. And there was a third one, I can't remember what it is right now, but you'll have to be back at the next video to find out. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already.